Oh, hi, everybody. I'm going to get this off of my screen so I can better see you. Hello, Lifehouse. Chef Laura Steck in the house. Great to have you in my house. Welcome to Kitchen TV, where we like to stir things up. I'm broadcasting live from Portola Valley, California, and it is a pleasure to have you here today. This is our first class, and when companies come to me, I think I like to introduce everyone to my style of cooking. I know I look like Michael Jackson today. I got the one glove on because I got a little cut on my thumb. So you'll give me that Michael Jackson look. This is a combination actually of two classes that I teach. One is quick cooking and the other one is eat more vegetables. And I don't know if anyone is cooking in the background. I think what we will do is that you are all muted and you are more than welcome to ask questions during class. And we have a small class, so that would be fine. You can mute yourself and ask questions. You can also put questions in the chat box. Then my Ed McMahon in the background, Paul Mossbauer, he will forward me those questions as we go along, and we can answer them along the questions along the class. So this is a casual class. Please feel free to ask along the way. Good questions are, I'm allergic to this, I don't eat that, give me substitutions. Is anyone cooking in the background? If so, raise your hand, Paul can tell me. If you are not, we will have a video for you up on my YouTube channel afterwards. If we do ever do another class, you are more than welcome to cook all the recipes or some of the recipes, or certainly refer to the video and cook along at your own speed. My style is plant forward. And what that means is that meat is not my enemy, but it is not my muse. And so I think a lot of us need to learn more about vegetables, and that's really what we're doing here today. I may mention other questions or other classes in class, and that's just because there's a lot to learn and a lot of questions that you can learn, and a lot of classes that you can learn from. So if you like this class, please come back for another. So why don't we start off today by thinking about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 words how would you describe your diet? If you could turn to the person next to you and describe your diet in 6 words, what would those words be? What comes to mind as you think about how would you describe your diet to someone? And if you didn't have the word vegetable or plants in that descriptor, dear friends from Lifehouse, it's time to add it in, because I don't care what your diet is. It could be vegan, it could be Atkins, or what are the people now, keto, or it could be gluten-free. But basically, no matter what you're eating, people in the United States need to learn how to eat more vegetables. And today is that class for us. Why don't we eat more vegetables? Well, there was a study in the Mercury News many years ago. I saw it, and it was a couple of reasons. One, you can't get vegetables in restaurants, and you can't get vegetables at work. And it was really like, other people aren't serving me vegetables, so I can't get them. But of course, what we want to do is learn to cook more vegetables and eat more vegetables at home, because we want to eat them fresh and cook them fresh. And that is what we want to learn a little bit more about today. Another reason why people don't eat more vegetables is because they're used to meat, and meat is a little bit easy. Meat comes with nitrogen. And believe it or not, nitrogen on our tongue is more complex than carbohydrate, which vegetables are made from. So meat comes with its own sauce. So a lot of us are just lazy because, oh, I got a piece of meat and that has nitrogen, or that has a seasoning built in it, where vegetables don't. So we're going to learn how to build some of those carbohydrates into more flavor. And also, I just wanted to say that, meat has glutamic acid in it too. And I'll take the overhead shot, Paul, to show you this, that one of the things that we want to think about when eating vegetables is this idea of umami. Umami being the 5th taste, right? Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami. And it is the savory, unctuous taste that we get most often from meat, but we can get it from other sources. Glutamic acid is the source. And though most commonly found in meat, we can get it from tomato, as you see here, Parmesan cheese. We can get it from peppers, eggplant, miso, soy sauce. There are different plant sources. And what's important about umami as a taste is look at all the tongues. See how sweet is at the top of the tongue, salty, sour on the side, salty in the tip, right? Umami, though, on the whole tongue. So though today we get more into umami when we look at the protein class, or we talk about, we actually have a Japanese class, but umami is a topic that when we're looking to eat more vegetables, we really want to start spending more attention on, because when we remove that meat from our diets, we will often get rid of that taste, and that taste is the fulfilling, rounding taste. All right. Another reason why people do not eat more vegetables is because their knife is not sharp. So why don't we begin with just a little bit of a how-to about knife. Now, when you use your knife, 8-inch, 7-inch chef's knife, or larger is what you want for just cooking in general. And when you use your knife, there are microfibers on the knife that bend over. And in order to keep your knife sharp, you want to straighten those fibers back up again. But if you did it every time that those fibers bent over, if you sharpened your knife each time that happened, you would actually over sharpen your knife. We don't want to take steel off constantly, and we don't need to. So what we do is we take out that thing that you've got in your knife block. You've never taken it out probably since they gave you it when you graduated college, right? Take that thing out. What is it called? Honing stick or steel. And these two things go together. In this class, you will get Laura's top favorite things, which is Laura's holiday gifts. And one of them is a steel, because this is the thing that keeps your fibers up. And if you've had it for years, actually in culinary school, they taught us we should get a new one every year. So it's probably time to get a new one. But let's review what it actually does. It doesn't take off steel unless you get a diamond, steel, or honing stick, but it aligns the fibers. And so I want to take my honing stick and my knife at a 20-degree angle. So maybe even the overhead shot, well, no, I don't know. 20-degree angle. So it'd be harder to, so, this is 90, this is 45, right? That's 20. And you want to take your knife from the back of your knife to the front of your knife 10 times on one side, and then 10 times on the other side. And then 5 times, 2 times, and alternating sides 10 times. Now you do this about every half hour. You use your knife, and you can do it like I did it down. You can do it up. You can put your steel this way. If you think about the physics, you really should be going up. But that's a story for another class. The thing is that you do it. It's not brain surgery. You can do it any way you want. And what that does is it aligns those microfibers back up again. And then you can go and use your knife. Now, if you only cut 15 minutes a night, you can do it every other night. But if it's something like Thanksgiving and you're going to be cooking all day, bring that steel out and keep, honing your knife, because that's going to give you a better, longer edge. And then all you need to do is sharpen it about, twice a year, depending on how much you use your knife. All right. So first, we're going to do a couple recipes today. We're going to do our holiday pasta, which just looks great during the holidays. And it's also something we can make beforehand. And then we're going to talk about this handout that you also got called the Easy Seasoning handout, to think about how we can season vegetables quickly. But first, we're going to start off with a few quickie items that are always good to know. All right, I'll take the overhead shot, Paul, and we're going to learn how to dice an onion. So onions have acids in their inside that go up in the air and land in our eyes that I can't see and I can't cut, and that's extremely unfortunate. I want to stop doing that. So what I want to do is have a system so that that doesn't happen to me any longer. And this is an easy system to prevent doing having that system happen. If you have a sharp knife, you disturb the onion less. And if you have a system of chopping it, you also disturb it less. I'll cut the onion in half. I'll remove that little label, by the way, that is that sticker, and try to remove it from my compost pile, because that's clogging up all the compost, and we want to prevent We want good compost because we want good tasting food. And our seasoning really begins in the soil. So if we can get good compost, that's how we feed our soil. And I'll take the part of the onion where it's connected to the plant, and that's that little yellow knobby, and I'll move that to the back. And then I will start slicing into my knife our onion horizontally, not all the way, about 3/4 of the way through, leaving something in the back to hold the onion together. Now I'll take my knife the opposite way, and thinking that the more the slice, the smaller the dice. I'll do the same thing about 3/4 of the way through, leaving me a checkerboard. And now all I have to do is determine the size of my dice and slice down, and I basically end up with the same size dice. Why is that important? Things cook the same rate. And when my onion was not cut through, I'll just flip that over and I will dice that in, dicing around that little knobby if I choose, and composting that on the way. Diced onion. Here's another quickie. The quickie has to do with beets. We think about beets. Beets are, oh, I would never use beets, right? A lot of work, too much work. I say beets are one of the easiest things we can bake. I'll just have my beets. I washed them. And I'm going to add in a little bit of olive oil here to my beets. I'm just going to mix those up and make sure that they coat, whoops, and that they don't run away beets. I'm going to add some salt to it. And then I'm just going to wrap them up in aluminum foil. Now I can also put them in a baking dish. Either way, make sure you have enough foil to make a nice little packet. And then this gets popped into the oven about 400 degrees for, depending on the size of your beets, maybe about an hour. But how long did that take me? Not long at all. Though beets take time to cook, they actually are one of the fastest things to prepare. And so it's a quick way. And of course, better to bake a beet than boil a beet. Why? Well, let's find out. All right. So I've got this easy seasoning handout, and this is salt and pepper with a college education. There's about 20 different seasonings here. You could look at them on your own. You'll notice that that is there are no quantities on here, because does anyone tell you how much salt and pepper to put on your food? No. So it's the same kind of idea. This is salt and pepper with a college education. Quick ideas that come together with hopes, probably things already in your kitchen that you can then season your food with. And no matter what you are cooking, you can use these on any kind of vegetable, meat, or carbohydrate. So think about the quantities as equal parts until we learn more about this system. And we're going to put together a few of them right now. I think we might put together 4 of them. All right, so we're going to put together the first, which is maple syrup and Dijon. Maple syrup, and I've got some Dijon here. And what I'm going to do is just add maple syrup to it. Equal parts, sure, you could do that, but I don't like it that sweet. So to about 1 part of Dijon, I'm going to add about a 1/2 part of maple syrup. And this is my first easy seasoning. Just mix that up. And this is really good with Brussels sprouts. I think we're not going to use it today with Brussels sprouts. Another easy seasoning is ketchup, hoisin sauce, and sriracha. So I've got some good quality ketchup here, actually no sugar added, which is nice. That's my base. So I would say 1 part of ketchup. I'm going to add to about 1 part of hoisin sauce, right? Hoisin sauce is that thickened, seasoned soy sauce. And then a splash of sriracha. I didn't have sriracha in my kitchen today. I'm using up what I've got. I've got some kind of other hot sauce, and I'm just going to put in a splash of that. And of course, I wouldn't want to have equal parts sriracha to ketchup and hoisin because it would make it too hot. So you decide. That's my second one. My third one is going to be some apricot preserves. Apricot preserves being something that's really wonderful to use with savory. It just goes very well with it. And I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard to that, or any kind of mustard I want. Maybe if my preserve is 1 part, my Dijon would be maybe a 1/2 part or a 1/4 part. I think we're going to add some soy sauce to that. I would say a 1/4 part. And then I'm going to make that a little saucy by adding some stock. Chicken stock, vegetable stock, beef stock, doesn't matter, probably 1 part. And we'll mix that guy up. And this is my third easy seasoning that can go on to anything. That's going to be a little bit more viscous, a little more saucy. All right. And then my last easy seasoning for you is going to be simply cumin seed and mustard seed. And this is where we'll begin. Little cumin seed, equal parts, cumin seed, mustard seed. And I'll just put that off to the side as we move on to doing some slicing and dicing. All right, so I have 4 easy seasonings that I can use on anything. And I'm going to use it on some Brussels sprouts, and I'm going to use it on carrot. So why don't we start? So first I want to talk about cutting vegetables. We want, anytime we have a vegetable that rolls like this, it's so easy to cut ourselves that we want to make sure we're holding our hands correctly. And again, excuse the Michael Jackson look here with the glove on. I got a cut on my finger. I'm going to bend these fingers over. I don't want to make sure I don't cut with them out because that's just looking for trouble. Bend your fingers in, and that thumb, you don't want to have your thumb hanging out here because you never know what's going to, right? Thumb goes in the back. And so what I'm left with is a block. And the block will allow me to be basically able to cut. And I know you can't see that I am not looking, right here I am, if you can see me in the corner, right? I don't really even have to look because my thumb's back here and my fingers are bent, right? Now, of course, you want to look, and you don't want to necessarily not look, but that's the appropriate way. And if you want to even be more safe, what you want to do with anything that rolls is cut yourself a base, which is what I should have done first. So cut yourself a base off of your carrot or zucchini or anything that rolls so that now I'm even more safe to look at you while I'm cutting, right? And then I can also, if I'm going to do, say, some julienne, basically after I cut my base, I can just cut my julienne or sticks. And then I can stack those sticks. So, well, no, planks is what we call them. And then I can stack those guys up and I can cut, oh, it's a little too high. I can cut myself some julienne. I want to do that because we're going to use this carrot. And then if I wanted to, I would stack all those juliennes up and I could dice them from here, right? So having a system when you do your cutting and holding your hand the correct way, not like that, not like that, but like that is what we want. All right. Okay, so we're going to go over to the stove, I think, and we're going to start. Oh, no, hold on. Before you switch cameras, let me just start our cooking session by saying that vegetables have secrets. Vegetables have secrets. And the secret of vegetables is that they are sweet. And you say sweet, right? That onion, is it onion sweet? But once I cut that onion up and start to saute it, what happens? It turns brown. It caramelizes, it becomes sweeter. And why is that? It's only science. When the carbohydrate in that onion reaches 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, carbohydrates caramelize. All vegetables are carbohydrates, so are fruits. So all fruits and vegetables can caramelize if they reach the right temperature. What's the temperature? 330 Fahrenheit, 166 is C. But let me ask you a question. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? What temperature does water boil at? Most adults don't remember. 100 C or 212 Fahrenheit. So 212 Fahrenheit, 330 degrees Fahrenheit. If you boil and steam all your vegetables, your temperature just doesn't get hot enough to bring out the secret. What's the secret? Sweet. What temperature does it take? 330 Fahrenheit, 166 C. Where do I get that? In the kitchen. Broiler, oven, grill, saute. So let's look at saute. All right, we'll take the stove shot. Now I've got a not nonstick pan and I want things to stick. So this is another great, Laura's favorite things. You know, if you don't have an actual not nonstick pan, good quality stainless steel, and you feel like spending some money, this is where you definitely want to spend a little money. An 8-inch, 10-inch, or 12-inch saute of good quality. These are all clad. These LTD all clad with a darker background. They probably run at least 120 bucks. So it's the most expensive thing I'll talk about today, but definitely a good gift. And we want it to be nonstick because we want things to stick. I'm going to add some extra virgin olive oil with a smoke point of 375 to 425. It's absolutely okay to saute with extra virgin olive oil. You just don't want unfiltered olive oil. I'm going to use some Brussels sprouts for this dish. Brussels sprouts. I'm going to use some Brussels sprouts. I'm going to cut them thinly because they will do more caramelization for me as thin, because they're smaller pieces. And we'll talk about that in a second. And just put them all down. And I want pretty much a one layer of vegetables, so. I don't want two layers because what I want things to do is actually touch that pan. And then I'm going to mix those guys up with my oil. I'm going to flatten it out. And I'm going to have the guts to put down the spoon and walk away. Why? Because the place where the secret comes out is the place where the vegetable touches the pan. And if you are like most people, you will stand by your pan and you will just stir. Most people just stand by when they're sauteing and they're just stirring. And they just keep stirring, but stop stirring. Let the vegetable touch the pan. Don't be, open the window, turn on the fan. You want the heat to touch your vegetable. You don't have to worry about the hydrocyclic amines, those black spots that happen when meat grills, because that has to do with amino acids in meat. Vegetables have carbohydrates, and we're not going to worry about that. We want that color to come in. We're looking for brown and not black. Black is burnt and brown is caramelized. And if you let the vegetable touch the pan, you will find that you get much better color and taste. Seasoning lesson number 1, caramelize your vegetable. Seasoning lesson number 2. As your vegetable cooks, there's a layer of brown stuff that forms on the pan. Let's see if we've got some. We're starting to get a little bit, right? See that brown stuff just starting to form. There's a name for that brown stuff. Does anybody know what it's called? It's called fond, F-O-N-D. It is the dehydrated essence, or what they call the culinary gold of your dish. Do not do like what most people do and remove your dish and then throw all that stuff down the drain, right? I want to bring that fond, that dehydrated essence back into my food because it is my seasoning. I can season my vegetables before I even season them through the process of caramelization. And so let's look at our pan and see what we have. We've got some fond and it's starting to accumulate, which is good. We're getting some nice caramelization on our Brussels sprouts. And so I can take, most commonly, right, I can take some stock to deglaze. I can take some wine to deglaze, but you can deglaze with any liquid. So here I've got some capers and I've got juice in the caper jar. Do you do anything with that? Let's deglaze with it. I can deglaze with the beer I'm drinking. I can deglaze with apple juice if I'm cooking with kids, right? It doesn't matter what I deglaze with. It will change the flavor. We can understand that, but what we may not understand is how much to add. I don't want to add a lot because if I add a lot of moisture to this pan, I end up with water that basically just drops the temperature of my saute, right? Back to the boiling point of water, which is 212. And I'll have to sit there and wait till it all goes away in order to get back to the business of saute. So more moisture when you need to cut through maybe a bigger vegetable, but less moisture if I don't need that process. And so here, I just want to add enough to pick that fond up. So I'm going to remove it away from the camera for just a second so that it doesn't turn the camera off with the heat. And with my flat wooden spoon, why is it better? Why does she like me better than me? Why should she? Why do I get to scrape and you don't? Why is a flat wooden spoon a better choice? Because it has the ability to actually scrape that stuff up. And you'll notice if I've still got some over here, I'll just add a little bit more over here and I'll scrape that up. And this is where that expensive pan comes in, because that's what these pans are meant to do. Look at that beautiful color I've got. And of course, these are another one of Laura's favorite things. You can get them online. Who wouldn't want this for Christmas in their stocking? Get it. So that's a good present. And then here we can add some seasoning or not. We could add some salt if we chose. And what I'm going to do is finish up with one of my easy seasonings. And what do I have? I have a cumin seed mustard seed, right? Cumin seed mustard seed lime is what you have on the easy seasoning handout. And we'll just toast those guys up. But instead of lime today, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon, because that's what I got. Cumin seed, mustard seed, lemon here, a little bit of salt or not. And I have got a beautiful caramelized vegetable with some wonderful seasonings that have been toasted, cumin seed and mustard seed. Smells fantastic. Let's transfer that to a dish and we'll move on. So cumin seed, mustard seed, lime. Now we, of course, can do that. I could use any vegetable. So the idea here is that any vegetable would be good. I've got that carrot here. I could have used cumin seed, mustard seed, lime on carrot, but I could have used cumin seed, mustard seed, and lime on broccoli or cabbage or anything, right? So this is salt and pepper with a college education that I can use on any type of vegetable I choose. So let me rinse off my pan and kind of take the same idea, whatever is in my kitchen, whatever vegetable, whatever pan. I'm going to add some protein to it and possibly whole grain, which actually I do have some whole grain. I could add some. Let's see. I wasn't planning on adding some whole grain, but I happen to have some rice, wild rice left over. So let me see. So, taking that to the next step, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, filtered, which has a smoke point of 375 to 425. And it's okay for smoke point because the average temperature in your pan is about 365 to 375 saute. And I'm going to add in my carrots that I cooked up. I'm going to caramelize the vegetable, deglaze the pan, and then say it's dinner time. And they're like, oh, what am I going to eat for dinner? So what I have. So I work privately as a chef. I always have a little bits and pieces. And of course, a whole grain is one thing. We always want to have a little bit of cooked grain because we can use it for leftovers very easily. We all want to eat more whole grains. We learned a lot more about whole grains in the grain class. Whole grains are not making you fat. Our problem with our diet isn't whole grains. It is the very highly processed carbohydrates that you and I overeat. If you have any issues with weight, you know what the issues are? It's the food you overeat. It's not whole grains. It's not, it's not the whole grain would be the brown rice and the quinoa, right? White rice, we might get into the overeating thing, but brown rice, we don't really overeat whole grains. So definitely we want to be eating more grains because that's what feeds our brains is the carbohydrate. All right, so I would do the same process here, whatever the vegetable might be. Say it's Could be cabbage, could be broccoli, right? Now, carrots aren't going to be as quick to give me that fond on the bottom of the pan, but let's say we had a lot of fond and we had a lot of carrot, and we have to keep the class going here. And I would wait till I get some of that fond. And of course, I would just add whatever liquid I want to pick up that fond. Ooh, I don't want to shut the camera off. Woo, that was exciting. Pick the fond up and put it back in. And then I would add, maybe after that process, I would add a little bit of leftover whatever, right? This is just eating on a regular basis, every day-to-day basis. I happen to have here some tempeh, but you might have, with leftover chicken or whatever. So any vegetable, any protein, I don't want all that in there, be too much. To any vegetable, any protein, if you have grain, any grain, heat that all up and then come back with one of your easy seasonings. So here I've got that ketchup, sriracha, hoisin. Add it in. And then maybe loosen it up a little bit with some stock. If it's too thick, I can just add a little bit of stock. The stock will also deglaze it. And when I transfer it over, I'll still have some stuff in my pan because I just will have that fond that has stuck to the bottom of the pan. So let's do this here. Take some out. I'm going to remove that here. And then the stuff that I have left in it, right? I'll go back to the stove. I'll deglaze that once again. Right, it could have been the apricot. It could have been the cumin seed, mustard seed, lime. It could have been the maple syrup Dijon. And then with that extra fond, I'll just put that on top of to kind of pick up all the extra flavor. And of course, I could even do it again, right? Because I have that extra stuff and I shouldn't throw that stuff away. That's where the flavor comes, and maybe we'll just leave that for the second. All right. So I've got cumin seed, mustard seed, lime or lemon on my Brussels. I have some sriracha, ketchup, and hoisin. What a beautiful smell. On my tempeh, tempeh is a whole bean soy product like tofu, but it's not as processed. So thank you. You can get tempeh at Trader Joe's actually, and you can get it in not really at grocery stores. Some grocery stores you can. It's getting to be more popular. Tempeh again is a soy product, and it's more nutty than tofu, and it's more whole. Okay, so let's make our holiday pasta now. It's a wonderful pasta dish to make at this time of year. It's really a wonderful pasta dish to make any time of year. It doesn't have to be pasta either, which is one of the reasons why I like to do it at the quick cooking class. It can be you can put it on any meat. You don't need pasta. If you're not doing that, you can put it on grain. You can just put it on vegetables. And it's a really quick dish, and it just goes along really well with this class and with easy and quick seasonings. It's unexpected flavor. And you can make it beforehand, and that's really great for holidays when you are having guests. And cooking and talking take two different sides of the brain. This is a Laura Steckism. I don't know if there's no science behind it, but I swear it does, because try to talk try to talk to your guests when you're having a party and cooking. It's just hard. So if you can do things beforehand, you are a better guest. It's amazing. You'll even see me sometimes in class. I've gotten used to talking and cooking at the same time, but you'll often hear me say, I can't pull out the word, So like when a guest comes, you're busy cooking, and a guest comes to the door and you're like, oh, hi, mom. For some reason, the word doesn't come out. So that's one of the problems with hosting, is that I think that cooking and talking take two different sides of the brains. So give yourself a break and do things beforehand. All right. So we're going to start this dish with some cooked pasta, which is another reason why this is good. If we choose to use pasta, I've got some cooked brown rice pasta here. This is a great brands should you be thinking no wheat in your diet or looking for different options? What is it called? Tinka. Anyways, more of the I can't really Tinkyad. It's Tinkyyad. Anyways, brown rice pasta, any kind of pasta will do. I cooked it beforehand. Anytime that this dish requires cooking it beforehand, but anytime that you have guests over, especially, it's really nice to cook your pasta beforehand because, we don't cook your pasta if we're working in a restaurant. We don't cook your pasta to order unless it's a fresh pasta class. A fresh pasta dish. We will always cook your pasta the night before in a restaurant and then just dip it into boiling water upon service. That allows, pasta holds very well, and that allows us to be able to cook it to the al dente point that we like, and then drain it, cool it down with cool water, and it'll stay in the refrigerator fine, certainly overnight. And again, another nice thing for a holiday party is to have things done beforehand. So we've got our pasta cooked. All right, and now we're going to make our sauce. Happy to take any questions. If there are, please put them in the chat box. Ed McMahon in the background will deliver them up to me. All right, we're going to start with some stock. It can be stock that you make. It can be stock that you buy. It can be beef, chicken, it can be vegetable. The recipe says vegetable, but any kind of stock will do. And stock is going to serve as our base. Sauces have 5 main ingredients. They have a base, a salt, a thickener, an acid, and seasonings. And as we go through that, we'll talk more about that. A base, a salt, an acid, a thickener, and seasonings. If you know that, you can make your own sauces at home, and that's a fantastic thing to have, skill to have. I'm going to use some olive oil. I can use a higher quality olive oil if I want, or one that maybe even is filtered, not filtered, because we're not going to cook it for really that. It's not going to cook that much. An olive oil is a wonderful gift for the holidays. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of olive oil here. Don't ask me what kind of olive oil I like. It doesn't really matter. It matters what kind of olive oil you like. You should have a filtered olive oil to cook with, and then an unfiltered olive oil as a seasoning oil or a finishing oil, something that you would use for a salad dressing or that you might drizzle on at the end. If you use your expensive olive oils to cook with, you are basically just cooking the aromatics to the air, and so it's just a waste of your money. Also, besides not having the correct smoke point, a perfect gift. I love that though. I love that holiday sweater you gave me, and the earrings were nice 2 years ago, but I never wear them anymore. You know what I want from you for Christmas? All I want is some culinary gifts, things I'll actually use. And olive oil is one of those. Where do you find out what kind of olive oil you like? The best way is tasting. Take comparison. It's actually a fun holiday opportunity. It's a fun holiday party if you're having people over to just have an olive oil tasting, and everyone can find out. What's interesting about our taste buds is that they are completely, totally different. So when your brother comes over for Thanksgiving with that bottle of wine that he says is the best he's ever had, and he's that snooty guy, oh, it's not my brother, by the way, and you taste it and you say, I don't like this, and you feel kind of stupid. It's like, no, you have every right not to like it because you and your brother live in completely different palatial worlds. Your palate is like your thumbprint. Some people don't like cilantro. We let them get away with it. Some people don't like olives. I think they're crazy, but they don't. So wine is the same kind of thing. Olive oil is the same kind of thing. Find out what you like. What you like is important. What somebody else likes, it really doesn't matter because they live in a different taste bud world than you do. Olive oil. How about some lime juice? We want to add some lime juice to this sauce that we're going to use for pasta, but we could use it for any kind of grain, meat, or carbohydrate. Another one of Laura's favorite things is a citrus squeezer. I'm so amazed that people don't have these in their house. I didn't have one for a long time. And they're just the most easy thing to use, right? As citrus, we want to use more citrus. We're looking to reduce our salt in this country. We eat most of us eat double the amount of salt. So we want to learn to season without all that sodium. Certainly citrus is the way to go. And I'm just going to squeeze in 2 tablespoons of that. Usually a half of a lime is a tablespoon. So, you can either measure it or not, this one seems kind of juicy, so I may not add all of it in. 2 tablespoons lime. Lime here is our acid. We add acid to a sauce to brighten flavors up. If you are cooking, say anything, and it needs something, right? You taste it and you go, it needs something. You might think, okay, it needs salt, but again, we don't know. Salt is one tool in a seasoning toolbox. So what else can we add? And often a kick of acid, not necessarily to make it taste lemony or limey or like wine, but to do what it does, which is open up our taste buds. Acid and pepper, like cayenne, same thing. I can add a little, say I'm cooking a lentil soup and it needs something, try a little squeeze of acid, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter, lime, lemon, orange, lemon, lime, and wine are more nondescript than, say, adding orange to it. But it opens up those taste buds, and then it helps my tongue receive more flavor. So again, a sauce has a base, which is our stock. It has a thickener, which here the oil is going to serve as a thickener, but we'll also add another one. So the oil is kind of a base as well. Sauces often have acids, and here we're adding an acid in the form of lime juice. I'm going to add some soy sauce because the sauce also has salt. And salt, when you start learning about these different things that make the components of a sauce, if I didn't have soy sauce, I could replace it with other things. So if I didn't have soy sauce, I might replace it with a fish sauce, or I might replace it with a Worcestershire sauce, or maybe just with salt. Now we're changing flavors, but when we start getting a good handle on those 5 components, knowing that they are interchangeable, it really adds creativity to our cooking process. I'm going to add a chipotle pepper. If I didn't have chipotle pepper, I could add sriracha. What is a chipotle pepper? It is a roasted jalapeno. A roasted jalapeno, we can buy them in jars. I can't turn it over, it'll spill out. There we go. Maybe you can see it. It's got some adobo sauce in it, which is also very seasoning and yummy. This helps us revisit that topic of umami, because one way you can increase actually the depth of flavor is with roasted peppers. We talk about roasted peppers in the Latin American class. I have a vegan Latin American class, actually. And what's the hottest part of the pepper? It is not the seeds. It is the vein. So do we have any vein on this pepper? The vein, the thing that holds the seeds to the pepper. So make sure you take out the vein more than the seeds. The seeds get in the way of your experiencing the pleasure of the texture, even though they can add crunch. So that didn't cut up very well, did it? Hold on, let me put my hand on top of it, cut that baby up. Now with this recipe, this will serve about, what are we doing? 8 ounces of pasta. So I don't have how many it serves, but about 4 people. And certainly if you're serving more people, you can double the recipe. And it doubles very easily, except anytime you're going to double a recipe, whether it be sweet or savory, the one thing that you want to be careful, the 2 things you want to be careful are, the sugar, the sweetness, and the heat. So you might double a recipe, but then maybe 1.5 the times of heat, so that you do not, make it too hot. You can always add it in later. Now, the next thing is sweetener. And sweetener, I'm going to add, you can add sweetener of choice, the recipe says. So you can add maple syrup, you can add sugar, you can add brown sugar. What I want to do is introduce you to a little bit of brown sugar swerve, which is a fruit Erythritol, it is a fruit alcohol. It is naturally occurring. And I'm going to use about a tablespoon. You'll notice it looks like very much like brown sugar. And these are these sugars that have no carbohydrates in them. So they are no calorie. It's more of a minty taste. And definitely, if you want to learn more about sugars, we have the sugar class. We also have a keto class. If you're, they're sweet, but they're a little minty. And what I would suggest to you, if you're interested in experimenting with these kind of sugars, to start off replacing the sugar in your recipe with half swerve, half regular sugar, so that you will allow your taste buds to get used to the taste difference. It's a safer thing to give you that chance to kind of get used to it. Cornstarch, we're going to add a teaspoon of it. I can use arrowroot. I could even use kudzu. We talk about those types of different thickeners, tapioca starch, potato starch in the sauce class. I'm going to add some cumin. My best bet would be to take some of those seeds and grind them up. But because we don't have time today, I'll just add a teaspoon of the cumin there. And then I'm going to add some cilantro. And for the cilantro, what has the most flavor in the cilantro? The leaves or the stems? The stems. The stems of cilantro have the most seasoning, have the most flavor. Now, this hybridized cilantro that we eat from the regular farmer's market, I think is really starting to honestly lose flavor. I'm really kind of disappointed in a lot of the food in the grocery store, where a lot of the stuff we're eating is machine cuisine. We talk about that in my book, Cool Cuisine, Taking the Bite Out of Global Warming. Have you noticed that a lot of the produce is just bloated? And that's because we're growing food for travel, not taste. And I'm just going to add about 4 cloves of garlic to my sauce. And mix that guy up. Okay, so that's my easy seasoning. Took a little bit longer, but still fast. Will last in your refrigerator, certainly overnight. If you want it to last longer, don't add the garlic or the cilantro. And for here, I'm going to start with a non-stick skillet. So a nice cast iron skillet is non-stick. And I'm going to put a little bit of spray or olive oil in it to heat up now what I would do if I was, say, starting, I might start with some vegetables. And, for that, I can certainly cook my vegetables in a non-stick skillet. I just don't have the same type of fond that will attach to a non-stick skillet, but I can still caramelize the vegetable, deglaze the pan. And I'm also going to put in a little bit of pasta just to start this process up. Find my handy dandy. Where did that guy go with his face? Oh, here he is. Here he is. So again, you can get these guys online. Fantastic holiday gift, Laura's favorite things. They come, these two came in a pair. They're totally just cute. And look online for that. And of course, mix that up. And for the sake of where we are in the process, I'm not going to we're going to kind of speed the process up a little bit. I'd want those vegetables to get a little bit more caramelized, but we'll let them be as they are. I'm going to add this time in some tofu. Now, again, meat is not my enemy, but it's not my friend. No, meat is not my enemy, but it's not my muse. I'm just using some tofu here. This Hodo Soy is a local company based actually in the East Bay. I think you guys are in San Rafael from what I heard. You can tour Hodo Soy and they make a really high quality tofu nugget. Any kind of meat though, right? Doesn't matter. Any kind of vegetable, any kind of pasta, grain, or not. Doesn't matter, whatever you choose. Basically, we would add a little bit of some type of deglazing liquid here. Back up, and of course, that will also steam my broccoli and make the whole process happen faster. Now I want to go back to my sauce and mix it up again, because as I was talking, the sauce, the cornstarch fell to the bottom. When you add cornstarch to a dish, it absorbs about 30% of its weight in water and it sinks. And so then we want to make sure that we mix it up again. Now, when we're adding cornstarch to something, Do we want to add it to a cold liquid or a hot liquid or a thickener, let's say, even potato starch, kudzu, arrowroot? We add it to a cold liquid so that it doesn't immediately grab, like if we added our thickener to a hot liquid, what happens is that, like I said, when you add liquid to it, it absorbs 30% of its water weight in water and sinks to the bottom. If you add it to a hot liquid, it would absorb all the water at the same time, and then it would seize, right? And then you get clumps. So make sure you stir it well. And this is the sauce class, but do you know why cornstarch, arrowroot, tapioca starch actually thicken? Do you know what is happening in the science? I think this is so just basic, but so amazing. The reason why your sauce thickens is because the molecules of water bloat up and they literally act like linebackers and the water can't pass. So the only reason why your sauce thickens is because the molecules of starch get big and then they just stop the water from flowing. So basic, amazing, wild. All right, I'm also gonna add some, go back to our pasta here. I'm gonna add a little bit of greens, any kind of greens I want. Probably getting a little sticking down there because I was talking too long. And I'm gonna mix in, add some of my sauce. And with the color of that chipotle pepper, and if you do add some greens to the dish, it just comes out this holiday color. And that's why I call it holiday pasta. Of course, the cornstarch thickens immediately. And it just brings our whole dish together. So, all right, we're going to go back over. I'm going to garnish my dish. I'll take the overhead shot. Let me get something to hold this with. I'm going to garnish my dish. Oh, first we'll plate it. Now remember, when plating, the eye is looking for a couple things. First off, anytime you add something to your dish, think about odd numbers. Odd is sexy. Even isn't sexy. Odd is sexy. The way that our eyes go through the dish, it's better for me to have, instead of putting, say if I was going to put my, my toasted pumpkin seeds here, I want to put them in, not, equal sides, because even is not sexy. I want to put maybe, and if I didn't put them just all scattered along, I want something that the eye goes do, 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 instead of do, 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 do. Even is less sexy than odd. Height is also important. So if you can get height, the eye is attracted to height. I'm going to add a little bit of goat cheese to it. Should I choose to? Doesn't need to. It's a vegan dish without, of course, and depending on what you add to it. And then I'm going to top it with a little bit of cilantro or not. Oh, and you know what's also really nice in this dish, and I actually have some and I wasn't thinking, let me see if I can do a quick, and it'll even be even more holiday-ish, and it's such a nice addition, is to add some pomegranate seeds, and it'll even pick up the red color even more, and it is a nice addition. So it's pretty, put it on different, different ways so that your eye is attracted to the variation of placement, and then just a little white cloth to pick any type of messes on the side. So here we have, dear Lifehouse, we have our cumin seed, mustard seed, lemon, Brussels sprouts. We have our sriracha ketchup hoisin tempeh. Oops. And we have our holiday pasta with spinach and cilantro and chipotle, a little bit of goat cheese. for your party. So that is our class, Lifehouse. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. So quiet. You're so quiet. I know you're out there. I know you're out there and you're still all there. So thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you coming to. Oh, is there I hear some noise in the background?
That looks
No?
beautiful. I'm on my way.
Oh, all right. Yeah. And it smells good and it's easy
I
and
swear I
fast.
wish I had smell-o-vision. That looks really good. You did
I
a
think
great job, Laura.
Thank you so much. That's the next thing that Zoom needs to get is smell vision. Yeah, if you have any, again, the video we will send to Malcolm, and you can watch the video again should you choose. Remember the secrets of vegetables. Vegetables are sweet, and that comes out at 330 degrees. You know, we are, as eaters, we are naturally attracted to sweet, and if we can get that from our cooking, we will find that we have more satisfaction than just always having this bland food that is then seasoned, you know, with salt and sugar. So we want to learn new seasonings, and we want to learn techniques that allow us to bring out that sweetness. And quite honestly,
the soy sauce, that was a good idea. I never thought about that. That's great.
Well, and as you realize those 5 components of a sauce, then you can start substituting things. So if you're making that tomato sauce and you know you don't have, for any reason you didn't have salt, right? You could always add in some soy sauce, or add in some miso, or add in some, you know, well, fish sauce would take it a different way, but things are interchangeable. So once you get that idea, and of course, look back at that easy seasoning handout and find which types of combinations that you would be able to, you know, easily bring into your kitchen. Because in the end, what you're going to be eating is vegetables, some kind of protein, and some kind of carbohydrate. And if you can bring on the fast cooking, that's what you need to bring together.
That all together, yes.
And if you got a sauce, you know, sauces that you buy in jars often have citric acid in them, and sauces often don't necessarily make a good, you know, make the processing. It just doesn't really often do good for sauces. So if you can make a quick sauce on your own, you're on the way. So
there you go. Amen. Okay. Thank you.
Lifelong. Lifehouse, not lifelong. That was a company.
We have a question here, Laura. Is there a brand of pans or knives that you recommend?
Well, you know, it's funny. Maybe the people notice if anyone's up on knives. These knives are my $5 knives. I get them at a store called Kamai in San Francisco. I have all the expensive knives in my nice drawer. I never got rid of them. I still have them, but I don't use them because they are too heavy and they are too hard to, they're too heavy and they're too hard to keep sharp. With these cheap $5 knives, which is another great Laura's favorite things. And don't ask me. I've been bringing these knives into corporate America teaching for 15 years, and I still have people like contacting me saying, "Can I get another one of those knives?" They're light, and you know, I've got a little bit of arthritis in my elbow, so I don't want these heavy knives. I don't even know what people use them in, and because now once you get an edge on these knives, yes, it will stay longer. If you lose the edge on a cheap knife, it's harder to get back on it. But you can keep the edge on these cheap knives with a diamond steel. And a diamond steel is a steel that takes off a little bit of steel. So when I buy steels, I buy a diamond steel and it takes off a little bit. And I basically, it's terrible, but I'm really bad at sharpening my knives at home. So because this steel is so thin, you can keep it sharp with the steel. So that's what I recommend. They're not for the, you know, that kind of set, because people are like, oh, how could you be cooking with those knives? But once you get one, again, people love them. I love them. If you want heavy knives, I'll give you these. I don't use them anymore.
What about pan recommendations?
Well, pans. So, you know, my pans that I have, I've had all-clad pans all my life. All-clad pans are definitely one of the more expensive brands. Let's see, that's all dirty, but here's an all-clad. You know, when I used to work at Crate and Barrel many, many years ago, and people would buy, the shiny So there were two basic pans. I'm not sure what they are now. There were Calphalon and All-Clad. Calphalon was an anodized aluminum, and All-Clad is a stainless steel. People would often buy the stainless steel pans with the shiny outsides because they like the way they look. But of course, we know in using pans, the oil gets burnt to the ends and then it becomes unattractive. And unless you're my mother, who actually cleans the outside of the pan, I wouldn't suggest you get those. I like what they call LTD. LTD is the ones that have this, it has this brown coating on the outside of it so that you don't see the burnt oil on it as much. And really, we want our pans to, the idea of our pans is not that they look pretty hanging there, but that we actually use them and we get what we want out of them. So I'm a big All-Clad fan. I've had my set of All-Clad pans for over 30 years. They're perfect condition. That's where you want to spend a little bit more money is on your Saute pan. Definitely the one that releases. Again, the not nonstick. Now, beyond that, of course, a good cast iron skillet is a wonderful gift. I would spend a little bit more money on it. If you can, you can get the cheap cast iron or the more expensive cast iron. And I think a cast iron pan is actually wonderful. But remember, a cast iron is basically a nonstick pan. And we like to use it for our pancakes and for things that don't stick. Definitely that. And then, of course, some kind of a stock pot. You'll need some kind of a larger pot. I think a wok is a good thing to have. And a grill pan is fantastic, especially if you don't have a grill. And I like a La Creuset or one of those enamel coated cast irons, because especially for this time of year, another perfect gift, an expensive one. La Creuset is good for that, just like it's cast iron, but it's enamel coated. And so with cast iron, what happens is it's slow to heat up, but once it heats up, it holds the heat, whereas stainless steel is fast to heat up and fast to lose the heat. So when you want something like a stew or a pancake to take its time, that's where you go into cast iron because of its ability to be able to keep that heat at a stable basis, and wonderful to have, if you're really looking for a nice cassoulet pot, these enamel coated La Creuset pots, very heavy, but really worth it. Certainly this time of year. Anybody else?
I have one actually. Any advantages to copper?
Copper, well, if you're making, if you're whipping, what's good in copper, isn't it? It's not
all kinds of
cream.
pans and pots that
Egg.
make good copper. I mean, they look great hanging around the kitchen. And they're very expensive because of the material. So I'm just wondering, is there any advantage to using copper as a material for cooking?
Well, what's the one thing that people are now? I'm not thinking of. There's one thing that everybody, that you use copper to make. I don't know if it's a egg dish or whatever it is. I mean, to me, the extra ability of the copper to transfer the heat for the amount, which is, of course, one of the things that you're paying for. Basically, when you're paying for an expensive pan, you're paying for the ability for it to be able to release, the way it transfers the heat, and the sturdiness of it. And I think what you get for the additional, except for that one dish that I forget what you want to make, somebody knows out there, I'm sure, I forget what it is. I don't think, again, I think they look pretty, but I want to use my pans. I'm not going to spend time to clean it and make it look pretty. And I don't think the additional heat transfer that you get, copper compared to stainless, is really that noticeable. So I would spend my money on the stainless and have something that I just don't have to worry about as much. It's just copper. Again, it's kind of like that pretty stainless that then becomes a hassle and it's not going to look pretty. My pans are 30 years old and they look basically brand new. So if you like it, you like it, but it depends on how much space you have on your kitchen. If you have a place that you can just hang things around, but remember, the thing about hanging stuff in the kitchen is that all the oil flies up in the air and everything just gets coated. So, we want to, our kitchens really should be for utilization. And, if you got extra space for pretty things, okay. But if you got to spend then time them to clean it, just to make, I'm getting older, Lifehouse. I'm just getting older. I take the easier route, but definitely to me, All-Clad is I'm a big fan of All-Clad. And make sure that you do have some cookware that you like using. You know, if you have just old cookware and nonsticks that have the lines of, you know, the nonstick coating coming off, and, you know, it's, you know, you want to have tools that you like to use, so you will use them. And in the kitchen, it's really important. If all of my kitchen stuff is old and falling apart, the chances of me being motivated to get in there are even less. So we want to set our kitchens up so that we are motivated to go in there and cook, because no one will cook. As you know, basically we want to cook at home because food should be fresh, right? And we want to cook more vegetables. That, you know, we want to learn how to cook quickly with more vegetables, because that's what you and I have to eat more of.
Mhm.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. Again, the video will be, I'll send the video along when Zoom sends it to me. Really appreciate your attention today. Remember that culinary grits are a fantastic thing for the holidays, so consider some of those. And let's change the world with great tasting food, shall we? Together we can make a great meal and a great difference. Thanks for coming.
Bye.